Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again on another edition of NCI Live. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic that's been on everyone's lips lately, and that is Microsoft 365 Copilot. Joining me today is Mike Pagan, Senior Solution Specialist here Senior Solution Architect here at Network Center. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, sorry for messing up your title there, but that's
Computer guy works just fine.
Computer God, maybe? How's
Guy.
that? Guy. Oh,
I
okay.
don't
All
want to
right,
cast
cool.
any illusions.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining us. You're definitely an expert in this area, so we really appreciate you having you on. I want to just kind of remind everyone that is joining us, we are live. So if you do have any questions on Copilot, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them here live and on the air. So just send them on in, and we'll get your answers for you. And with that, I'm going to start talking to Mike. So, Mike, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, good. A lot of exciting stuff happening in the Microsoft world of late.
Yeah, it's you can't sleep because you're gonna miss about 4 or 5 announcements that you have to catch up on. I went on vacation this summer and missed Ignite and spent about 2 days reading through the book of news.
The bulletins, just one after another. I have a team channel dedicated to it, and it's just constantly popping up all this stuff. Well, why don't we dive right into one of those really big updates, and that's Copilot.
Mhm.
So just for those people who don't know, who haven't been beat over the head with it, what is Copilot?
So Copilot is what Microsoft's calling their AI implementation of ChatGPT. They have a exclusive agreement with OpenAI, the company OpenAI, who created ChatGPT to use their technology in the Microsoft space. I don't know if you haven't seen, every Microsoft product will probably have a Copilot designation or ability to add it everywhere from GitHub to security to Bing to Microsoft 365 specifically is kind of what we're talking about today. So it is going to be everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to make it. It's kind of one of the cornerstones of their integrating it into their product lines,
hmm
and more specifically, their cloud product lines, because it does require the backing of the power that they've got in the Azure area, shall we say? So now you mentioned OpenAI and ChatGPT. How does Copilot differ from ChatGPT? What is the difference there?
So one of the biggest differences is that when you have the Microsoft for 365 license and you're using Bing Chat for Enterprise, your data stays within your tenant. Your queries, the documents you might use or format, don't get used in the public ChatGPT engine. I don't Large language model. It isn't trained, so you don't. There is no risk, less risk to say taking a conceivably confidential document and say, "Help me rewrite this." If you were to do that in ChatGPT, the open version of it, that information is now part of the great machine, and conceivably someone else could dig up, make a query to find some of those information or your private numbers, those types of things. So Microsoft made this agreement. They have engineered the product so that things in your 365 tenant stay in that search context is in your tenant and stays there.
Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more secure, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. And that's really important to people that have to any business that they don't want their users going wild. It's got definite benefits or potential benefits, right?
Mhm.
But users running unchecked with software can really cause problems. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Oh yeah. And with any new technology, compliance and security always gets invited to the party last. So we all know folks who have been using ChatGPT in businesses for months now. As soon as it became available, it's like, oh, neat. Let me look at this tool. And not to say that's bad to be early adopters,
No.
but certain industries have regulations and have,
Yeah.
you know, like just think in Europe, like GDPR,
Yeah.
how many compliance officers are just not able to sleep
Right.
because they don't know what their users are doing with, open public AI.
Right. And like personally identifiable information, PII, your SOX compliance, HIPAA, big one,
Mhm.
right? Just those
E-
general categories of information. That makes total
e-
sense. Yeah.
even things that don't even fall into, your traditional um, things that would get classified, just trade secrets.
Yeah.
uh, you know, those kinds of things can slip out also.
Yeah. Like the secret sauce, so to speak.
Yep. We'll finally find the recipe for Coke.
Oh, I hear you there. So, okay. So we kind of defined a little bit. If so in Copilot, if we were to define what it is, could you give a real overview of Microsoft Copilot is um, it's a tool that you have.
Mhm.
There's a couple of flavors, right? But you can ask questions of it and get responses. Fair?
Yeah, it's you've said it a number of times and made the analogy of you're the pilot, it's the co-pilot. It's there to assist you, get you to the right airport kind of thing.
Yeah.
I look at it as like a personal assistant, somebody, a researcher, so to speak. A lot of what the benefits is you can say, hey, I'm going to write this document, help me write this in a formal tone, or help me write a PowerShell script that does these things, just in general with AI, and it will find you examples. Now you can find the same information on the internet and kind of piece it together on your own, but the assistant kind of takes it a step further and not compiles, but assembles that, or aligns the data,
Yeah.
something where it's much closer for you to be able to be used
And more useful, right?
and more useful.
Yeah. I'm uh, I don't ever like to call myself a programmer because that's doing injustice to programmers. But I like to say I like to play around with programming. That's maybe a better way to put it. And one of the languages I play with is PHP because it's been around forever and it's fairly easy for me to understand. But there are some functions and things in there that my brain, for whatever reason, can't process how to get from A to X. So I've tried this with some of the GPT and Copilot both, and said, "Hey, so here's to maybe try to understand what you're saying there is in both situations. I could say, hey, write me some PHP code to do X, to get me from A to X, to get me from point A to point B, um, and do these things." But it'll write that code, it'll spit it out, and it, in theory, is executable. The key difference, though, from what I'm hearing you say, is that um, in Copilot, that stays out of the public domain. And
Mhm.
if you happen to have code in your company that's proprietary, that'll never hit the public, if you will, and it'll stay within your company.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha.
And like the Microsoft 365 for Copilot is more Office products, Office documents, things like
Sure.
that. So the same thing with documents. If you're going to um, say, help me write a project plan for XYZ using this as a template, it's going to take that information and cobble it together.
Hmm.
Uh, if we've all, if anybody's looked at any of the AI things, it can be a little get a little confused about uh, what the answers should be, or
Yeah.
actually are. So sometimes when cobbling together a document, I kind of think of it as a summer high school intern. Sometimes you get a rock star. Sometimes you find ones that can't alphabetize files. So you always have to proof the work,
Mhm.
because you might find that the AI made some assumptions. I wouldn't say made anything made up things,
Mhm.
but extrapolated information,
Right.
made a jump too far to put
Mhm.
something together that you still have to prove it because ultimately
Absolutely.
you're putting your name on it.
Yeah. And I want to bring up a point there with any of the AIs that are Copilot, and Copilot specifically. You're asking, it's like asking somebody else to do something for you, right? And
Hmm.
it seems to me that every time I've used it, and I know you have as well, we've both been working on it, and it seems to me that I've gotten a real good sense that it's how you ask the question. It isn't the product in and of itself that's got, any kind of thing. It's how you ask the question and how detailed you are with the question. To use your example of the intern, if you say, "Hey, go write me a letter," they're going to write
Hmm.
a letter. But if you say, "Go write me a letter about this with an informal tone and this and about this topic and with this much information, one page letter and send it to so and so," it'll be a lot more detailed.
Hmm.
Have you found that as well?
Yeah, and uh, when it will write things that you can say make it longer, make it shorter, make it more professional, more
Mm.
casual,
Right.
and that helps. I mean, I've been using a plugin called Grammarly forever
Hmm.
because I didn't pay attention in high school, and Oxford comma was my bane of my existence, and that's a problem if you marry an English teacher. So um, that's my own issue.
Yeah,
But so Grammarly's been steering my writing towards more proper.
true.
Copilot can kind of do the same thing. Now, philosophically, I wonder if how much uniqueness is going to exist in
Hmm.
writing in 5, 10 years as humans kind of get used to using these tools. Will it only be 7 modes of writing? Because misspelling or not using an Oxford comma just doesn't get used anymore.
Sure.
But that's a
There's a
topic for a
definite
different day.
philosophical debate there because I think that in as much as there's one set of code for Copilot, I think there are just as many different people putting in inputs to Copilot that
Hmm.
can just produce just as many outputs, if not more. So I think philosophically there's a debate there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we can have that after hours someday.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit here. So Copilot itself has three main versions, right? When
Hmm.
you hear Copilot, and we're talking about one that all the stuff we've been talking about has been really primarily about one. But when you look and you Google and you look at when you Google Copilot in Microsoft, you're going to find three things, right? You're going to find the free, you're going to find the pro, and the Copilot for Microsoft 365. Can you tell a little bit of the differences between them?
Uh, yes, primarily I've focused on the uh, Copilot for 365. That's the one you add to your tenant. That's the full featured one. The Copilot Pro, that is a license for a MSA account, your private account. So sometimes when you sign into things, it's a work or school account.
Mhm.
That type of account would need a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. If you're signing into your own MSA type of account, you
Your
can
home
get
account.
your home account.
Yep.
You would get Copilot or Copilot Pro. The difference is Copilot Pro is $20 per month.
Yep.
Copilot for 365 is $30 per month, and it
Yep.
can only be associated to certain 365 licenses, which are very common.
Right.
Basically, the least expensive 365 license
Yep.
can't pair with that license, but
Mhm.
and the free version, there's just a free version out there to tinker with. If you have if you use Edge and you hit the chat button
Yep.
on the right hand side, the fancy little Copilot button, that's Bing Chat,
Yep.
or Copilot for Bing. So these names change often. So if we
Yeah.
if we get it wrong, if you look at this in a month, sorry, but they've been
It has
renaming things
changed
for
over
that.
the past year three times. So
Yes.
I think right now
So
it's called Copilot Free.
yeah.
So it was Copilot for Bing and then Copilot for Enterprise. Yeah, it's changed. So I agree with you on that one. It's frustrating. Um, the one other thing like that is as far as data is concerned, um, what data you can use with those three versions. Can I do the same things with the data that I have for 365, my Copilot for 365 that I can with Copilot free?
No.
No.
If you want to like reference information, like say, hey, look at this document and
Mhm.
help me rewrite it or something, I think you can do that. The benefit of the tying a Copilot license to your tenant is
Mhm.
there's more hooks there, and
Right.
it's going to improve. Things are definitely going to change as the software features get morphed, and certain parts of it are going to be included in a license, and other parts are going to be like premium type of things. So
Right.
this space is going to change a lot in the next year, and definitely
Yes.
the things that you can do with it too. Like,
Yeah.
because right now, since we've turned it on, at least for my account, I've noticed the Copilot button showing up in probably five new places since the first day I turned it on.
Yep.
So as the Teams client and Outlook client modify and get new features
Get
and
updated. Yep.
all the Office products too, you'll see more functionality and features, you know, I'd say almost on a monthly basis.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where 365, one of 365's benefits carry over is that as they release new features and things that people ask for, it's they just update the client, and of course you have control over that in 365 as to how often, but it's readily available. It's there. So as soon as the
Mhm.
client updates, hey, you're probably going to get some new three Copilot features as well. And so let's talk practicality. We've talked about it. We said, hey, this is cool. You can do that. What is the realistic day to day? What can you actually do with it? Like, hey, it's cool that I can make it write a paragraph. And there's a lot of people out there that have used ChatGPT to say, you know, write a paragraph about this for my homework or something. But in a business case, what's some practical things that we can do with it?
Yeah, and that's
And
that's
why would I want it as a business owner? That would be another question.
that's a that's the $10 billion question.
It really is, and
Microsoft
that's
Microsoft has backed with their $10 billion, literally.
mhm,
Um, so I think about that often because when this comes out, a lot of Microsoft, if you go look at any promotional videos about it, on the major use case they're prompting is you need to make a marketing slick, one page marketing slick for this, and add some icons and do this kind of thing. That's not what I do. So sometimes I'm the type of person that needs to see things work,
mhm,
compared to extrapolating. Like, okay, well, somebody can make a marketing slick that looks really cool. How would I use that in what I do from a day-to-day basis? And a lot of it, I just so far have poked around and tried a couple different things. So I've used it personally in like Outlook and Teams,
mhm,
Teams meetings. When
yep,
you're in a meeting, you can click on, summarize the meeting so far. So if you're late to a meeting and it's being recorded and there's a transcription, it can summarize what's happening and give you some bullet points until if it if you have another type of license, Teams license, it will tell you names and you can see the transcription and the audio and you can see when
mhm,
people spoke and do a bunch of things. But you can also, in a meeting, you can get agenda items or action items. So if you're
mhm,
terrible at taking notes and start to have a terrible memory like I do, and you forget who said they was going to do what, that type of thing can help you with meetings. And
yeah,
especially if you record the meetings and you can do it after the fact, like, hey, I missed this meeting. Who needs to do what? Or I need to be reminded who can do what.
yeah,
You can copy and paste that out and put that into an email or a document and uh, carry that forward. In Outlook, there's a button that showed up on top. Like I said, it wasn't originally there, but now it is. If you have a long email thread, you can click on summary. And I have a example that I created or I took and I blurred out all the actual usernames and things, but it just kind of went through and talked about what we did, uh, who said what, who was suggesting we did these types of things, and
mhm,
put some information in there. So I didn't have to scroll through the 12 emails that made this particular email chain,
mhm,
and that saves time.
yeah,
And automation is an interesting thing. because it's easy to look at the end goal and say, I saved all this time, but there's a certain amount of work to get in that time. So there has to be some sort of balance. And if you're really good at scanning emails, maybe this doesn't save you a whole bunch of time.
Right.
But if you can be more efficient and more accurate, quicker, you might spend close to about the same amount of time, but you know that that's there. And
Yeah.
if you're in a hurry, you can get it. And it's easier to read emails on a computer, but you can get the same type of information on your phone because
Yeah.
the Outlook app on the phone can do the same types of things that you can in Outlook. So the like another example that I saw, just this morning is in a group chat I have going on. I have the opportunity to click highlights from the last 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So this went and just gave me some like key takeaways in the last 7 days. Uh, you said you would do this. I was going to do this. Somebody else was going to do this, and then it has little
Can you zoom in a little bit on
notes.
that?
Oh yeah.
There you go. Ah, there you
So
go. Yep.
so you can see the key takeaways from a chat. So if you missed a group chat and you weren't there, took a couple days off, you could
Mm-hmm.
summarize it and get the key points out of it, just like you can with the meetings. So, and
Mm-hmm.
then if I click on the numbers at the end of these
Yeah.
options here,
Yep.
it will take me directly to
The
where it
references.
pull
Yep.
that information out. So you can see if it interpreted the right thing, or if it said, "Hey, you're going to do this thing." Okay, right after that, somebody probably said what the IP address is or who I should email, then you can reference that in the chat itself. So I like actionable things that I can actually see. I think those are two things that anybody could use. And depending on how much you live in your email or in your chats, those are two things when you do the math of the license, $30
Yep.
a month, does that save you time or does it make you more efficient? Now, is it going to save you 5 hours a week? Probably not. But if it makes your day smoother, if it makes you more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
if nothing else, maybe it makes your day less stressful. It makes your wrap up for the end of the day a little bit easier, or right away in the morning. However you want to use it, this thing is going to be very personal, I think.
Yeah, I have to say I like the cross-reference pieces because as you said before, it's not at the level of a replacement, but it's your helper. And so if you can say, well, I'm just going to trust but verify, right? I'm going to trust that it's doing the right thing, but I want that security of being able to verify that. And then having the little cross-reference icons, your one, twos, threes that you've got there. I'm just going to take a pause here and just remind everybody that is watching us live. If you do have questions, please feel free to message us again, and we can definitely talk about any of the functions and details of Copilot. So with respect to that, let's talk. The big question on everybody's mind when it comes to Copilot has always been and always will be the security of it. What types of things do we need to keep in mind when we're talking about the security? And you kind of mentioned a few pieces earlier. We're talking about a little bit of the governance, but what outlying, what do we need to do to prepare for Copilot?
There's a couple of things that I can think of so far, and this is a new area, and like governance is not caught up to this at
Hmm.
all. I've been in a couple of CISO chats, and they are terrified of what this could mean just from a data leak perspective, and they don't have a lot of controls over what this can do. So, and from a security standpoint, if you can't control it, you turn it off until you can
Right.
control it. So some of it is having an idea of what data you have in SharePoint libraries or OneNote, um,
Hmm.
and just training in general, just making sure people have an idea of if you're going to use these tools, these are the tools. If you go to Bing Chat for Enterprise, copilot.microsoft.com, in the upper corner, it'll say protected, which means you
Hmm.
have the tenant version. If you happen to go to your home computer and you think I can just go to copilot.microsoft.com and start doing the same types of things. That is the public version. So, just
Mhm.
some training about, what this looks like, what
Right.
tools you should be using. On top of that, there's some layers you can put on top of it. There's um, uh, data like governance, having an idea of all your SharePoint libraries out there have the proper permissions on them. Getting,
Mhm.
the future will be data will be more useful when it can be tagged. So,
Yep.
and it doesn't have to be crazy. Three types of tags like general information, uh, think of the
Sensitive
military,
private. Yep.
sensitive, private,
Yep.
kind of thing. And if it's in these types of tags, if it has containers, then certain searches, unless you have your account would have access to secret information, shouldn't have access to secret information.
Right.
Um, Going into your search and go, show me the CEO's salary. I don't think that's ever going to work. Um,
No,
but
I will say I'm gonna just if I feel like I'm gonna interrupt you here. I've seen that Copilot does in fact follow the rules very well on the data security and the data governance. Like, yeah, exactly. That literally was the first thing I tried. I I had to try it because, like, will it do that? Will it go through and look at all the data that I potentially have access to, even though I may not like have a link to it or something?
mhm,
I tried it. It said, I don't know what you're talking about.
yep.
So,
And as this gets connected to more things, because it's going to be more useful when it's connected to more things, like there's a Copilot for Dynamics 365.
mhm.
That would be somebody's an organization's crown jewels from
Pile of
from a day.
sales. Yep.
Yeah, Copilot for sales. So if you can connect it to your other SaaS services, because that's the future, because you
Hmm.
want to be able to say, hey, help me find all of my customers that have purchased XYZ in the last 6 months.
Yep.
That's where these types of things become powerful, because right now to do it, it's SQL scripts or having somebody else mine the data and do all that kind of thing, find a special report. But if in a
Hmm.
chat I can type that out and get that information, that's
Yeah.
where this kind of thing becomes powerful. There's just going to be more layers to it. It's Microsoft has their tool Purview. There's going to be other tools to help look at your tenant, make sure the right information is classified, the right type of data is hidden, uh,
Yep.
encrypted, all that type of um, security layers. So,
Yep. No, and I can definitely see that being the really the biggest part to summarize is think of the security and the what the data is first before you talk about how AI is going to look at, what it's going to benefit you, right? And the tools that you're going to use to manage that data, right?
mhm,
I mean, that kind of goes back to just in general best practices. But I think that also can, we don't normally think about it. We usually say, hey, we've got everything fairly secure. But have you thought of it? Have you really gone through those exercises and done it?
mhm,
So, well, let's we're getting close to the end of our time here. We've mentioned the pricing, okay?
mhm.
What about the licensing that goes, like, you have to have 365, right? Copilot does not run on Windows Server. This is,
Correct.
you
Yeah.
have to have 365 and your data has to be in 365.
Mhm.
So that's kind of like almost step point five. You got to have that, and then have your data, and then your governance, and then you can have Copilot. But what kind of licensing do we need?
So,
You mentioned there was like a few that didn't
yes.
really qualify.
So 365 standard, business premium, E3 and E5.
Hmm.
You can add the Copilot for 365 license to. And originally, when it was announced, it was only basically for E3 and E5, and you can only buy a minimum of 300 licenses.
That was like a year ago, not quite. Like when Ignite last year in 2023.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big uplift to
Hmm.
ask. So if you can't. There's no trial to it. There's no month-to-month pricing.
Nope.
If you get a Copilot license, it is 12 times 30. And
Yep.
but now they've changed it.
Yep.
So at any of those license types, you can add one license to your
Yep.
tenant for an admin or for your accountant or whoever wants to try it first.
Yep.
You get a couple of them, try it out, and then after that, if you want to expand it, just start adding more licenses.
Mhm. No, and I think that's a great way to do it too, because you've got to recognize, as you mentioned earlier, to be able to recognize what are the true benefits. I mean, Copilot is a great, like, hey, look at all the whiz bang features it's got, but it's got to be practical. It has to have some, it's got to be grounded in what will it really do for you? Will it benefit you? So being able to have, like, say, one or two licenses that you can have somebody who's actually going to say, produce a lot of content and who has a lot of content interaction. I think personally that's where the rubber meets the road. Marketing is a great start because they're often producing a lot of textual content. Um, Anybody who has to summarize things a lot, right?
Mhm.
Anybody who has to do a lot of meetings. I personally do a ton of meetings, and having take those notes and then do something with those notes and having follow-up tasks that I have to do something with. Personally, that has benefited me.
Mhm.
So I can recommend that. How about you? Do you have any other thoughts on the first users, if you will, in a company?
As someone who sends a lot of email and a lot of Teams chats, like the summary,
Mm-hmm.
definitely helps a lot because if sometimes you work on an issue or you're back and forth with the vendor, there's 12 emails in a chain, and it might be something you last touched 2 weeks ago. So clicking on the summary button can help s- bubble that up and find a
Mm-hmm.
couple bullet points about who's doing what or where things are at, and just in general save more time or just be more organized.
Right.
That's half of it is maybe it's not more time saving, but it's being more organized and
Absolutely.
then be more efficient with your time. Those are the things
Yeah.
that I'm looking at first, and then I would say whoever you start to pilot with, they have to be technology friendly, like they have to want to do it. And then I think I would encourage organizations to reward people for sharing what they've used it for. Because if
Mm-hmm.
your plan is to roll it out bigger as you go, somebody finding a couple neat ways to do it and not sharing how it can benefit
Yeah.
the rest of the organization, like, hey, I can do this, or this helps me with these docs, and not sharing with the rest of the team doesn't help the
Yeah.
organization, and that's the goal.
They need to be a champion. There needs to be a champion of
Yep.
this product. Absolutely. Well, Mike, I really appreciate it. We've come to the end of our time. In fact, we've run a little bit over, so I appreciate you staying around with us. And there's a lot even more to cover. I mean, I'd really like to show and run through a demo of all the things that we can do with it sometime. But at any rate, if those of you that are watching, we appreciate you sticking with us. If you'd like to get more information, please feel free to email us at info@netcenter.net, or you can visit our website at www.netcenter.net, or visit us on any of our social media channels. If you happen to visit us at YouTube, you can click subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the little bell for notifications when we do go live, which is approximately every 2 weeks at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. With that, Mike, this has been a really good conversation. I really enjoy talking with you about these products, and especially at this time, this one is going to be a changer. I think it's really added something to 365. So the time will tell, right?
Yep.
So
It's gonna be an interesting world.
it's going to be an interesting year. Well, thanks again, Mike, for joining us, and thanks to everyone who's joining us here on NCI Live. Thanks for coming.